What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode on Proven Power Cycles. For those who don't know me, my name is Eric, and Lewis is here. It is the weekend. We're kind of coming in on our day off right now and kind of wrapping up some stuff. But I wanted to go over a long-term project that we've had here at the shop. This has been a very long, ongoing. We've gone through many hurdles. For those of you who have followed this channel for the last probably, I don't know, few months at least, you've seen this bike here and there. But we are going to talk about the Landspeed ZX14R that we have been putting together, and this has been an absolute roller coaster of a project because there's quite a few hands involved. And with that, whenever there's a bunch of people or a bunch of shops that's kind of involved on a build, usually things kind of, happen. You get these delays and whatnot. That's just kind of the normal part of the process, if you will. It happens no matter what shop you go to. Some of these builds take a little longer than you really want it to, but we have, over the last few months, have gotten a lot more efficient and a lot better on our workflow and stuff like that. But again, this was something a little new to us. And at the time, it was something new to us, and also the availability of stuff to get for it wasn't really there. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm just gonna kind of go over what we have done so far, some of the changes that we've made with this bike. We're gonna get it on the dyno. We'll do some initial dyno tuning here. We did miss some of the dyno tuning session. As you guys have seen, we did have some startup videos, or we do have some startup videos and everything. But we did get some of those issues resolved since that initial startup, okay? Originally, we had this bike wired in, kind of speed up the timeline here. The engine was originally built by SRW, and since then we have removed some things out of that engine, and we rebuilt it, part of it, just because some of the components in there, we realized we were having some issues with. We heard a tapping sound, like a knocking sound almost. Come to find out, the timing chain was a little off, and we just found a couple little minor issues with the engine. So we disassembled it a little bit instead of shipping it back out. And we were in touch with Scott at SRW. He's aware of some of the issues that we found, but it wasn't anything like, it's not like, hey, Scott screwed this up. It wasn't anything like that. It was just like, hey, this timing chain got kinked up, which is a very common issue on these. And so we had to swap the timing chain out. And there's a few other little things, like I said, that we found that we just fixed, and we rectified it, put it all back together, put it back in the frame, got the turbo kit back on. Then we ended up having a misfiring issue with the bike as well. So as we were diagnosing this misfiring issue, come to find out, because originally this bike was not wired for an M&W igniter. So this igniter right here is, what this does is it supplies a ton of power to the coils, okay? To the ignition coils. What we normally run is a little Bosch igniter. It's very small. It's normally for a gasoline-based application. What we are doing right now is we are running this on methanol, which there's not a lot of 14Rs out there running turbocharged methanol setups, okay? And based on our system right now, our fueling system and all that, and our injectors, the turbo and all that, we are expected to make around 400 to 450 wheel horsepower with this bike, until we upgrade the turbo system. That's going to be like the next thing. So this was an old turbo kit that the customer brought to us that we kind of modified. We put Kirk over at Boost Lab. We ended up swapping the turbocharger out. We put a larger turbo with the same framing so that we could still utilize the manifold, the exhaust, all of those other things. So we just basically upgraded the guts inside the turbo. Think about like you're boring out the cylinders on your block, It's kind of like what we did. So I don't remember the specs that we got for the turbo, but I can tell you it's bigger than what we had. I just don't remember off the top of my head. That's something I can supply to you guys later on, the turbo specs. Again, I'm just not sure, but ultimately, like I said, this is kind of like a stage 1 or a stage 2 kit that you would get from like RCC. Let's put it that way. He's going to be limited to about 4 to 450 because of the turbo. and that's honestly, he's got the fueling system right now, and we're gonna see what this thing produces on the dyno once we get it on there. But it should make some good numbers. Right now, what we're gonna do initially is we're just gonna run it on the gate, and I believe we have an 11-pound spring in there, something like that, 10 or 11 pounds. So we're gonna run off the gate pressure, which for those of you guys who are watching, if you're curious as to what that means, what that means is this: we have a wastegate, right? And in that wastegate, you have a spring. There's a spring in there that has a resistance. And that resistance is going to allow that wastegate to open and close accordingly, okay? So the spring pressure that we have in there, when I say it's a 10-pound spring and an 11-pound spring, what that means is that 11 PSI of boost, okay, of positive pressure, that spring opens up in this manifold, or in this wastegate, okay? So let me show you guys. There's a spring. Basically, that piston opens up vertically, okay? And when that piston goes up, that means that spring cannot hold the exhaust gas anymore. So the exhaust gas is gonna push that piston up, and an exhaust gas is gonna come out here and dump out of the dump tube, okay? So that dump tube is gonna relieve excess pressure that would otherwise spool that turbo up and create more boost, okay? So, and now what we have on here is we actually have a boost controller. So this is for our boost controller. This is our reference line, our reference sensor. So what this is doing, this MAC valve, so we have this one hooked up to a MAC valve. Some of our race bikes are actually on a CO2 bottle. But what it's doing is, what that MAC valve will do is, that's our boost controller. So that boost controller is going to add excess pressure to this spring. So you're gonna get more pressure on the spring. That's gonna, again, turn that 11-pound spring now, or 10-pound spring, into, let's say, a 20 or a 22-pound spring, more or less, depending on how you ramp it in and how you open it and all that jazz. So, or how you close it rather, and all that. So that's more or less how that works. And like I said, our goal is to try and pull up as much power as we can on this bike, but also do it in a progressive manner. So with these land speed bikes, what you guys have to kind of take note of is, and this is something that we're learning, okay? We don't know exactly how this is gonna work yet on the land speed bikes, but what we're being told, especially like the Bonneville bikes and these shift sector bikes and stuff, is that traction is a major concern out there. So it's not exactly how much power can you make and then send it. It's about making that power come in efficiently to where the bike's not gonna spin out, do a backflip, all those things, right? So mainly spinning out, that's like the biggest thing. So it's not like you're at the drag strip where you're on the two-step and you're launching this bike and just, it ain't like that. They're more of a controlled, softer leave from the line, and then they progressively get faster down the strip. So this bike is gonna be a half-mile bike. So it's a standing half mile, what they do. I know that some of it, they'll do some rolls, but this bike in particular is a standing half mile for what he's gonna be using it for. So from literally from a standstill to a half mile, that's what they get. And what they do is they clock their speed, and whatever kind of speed they take is like, that's kind of how they rank it. So there's no ET, there's no timing, it's just mile an hour. That's all they care about, is mile an hour. So we'll see what this thing does. I just kind of wanted to go over it with you guys, kind of show you guys. It is being tuned on a MAXXECU Race. We have the MSD solid, the solid state here, the relay, and we have the M&W igniter. Like I said, it's going to be tuned on a on M5, and it's on a 16-volt charging system on a battery. So we are running a 16-volt battery. We are not running the traditional 12-volt or 24-volt system. So yep, that's something else to keep in mind. We're going to get this thing fired up here. Well, actually, I could fire it up real quickly here. So I don't want to stink up the shop too much, because it is methanol, it is M5, it's highly corrosive. This stuff burns your eyeballs. Another thing I do want to point out, he's been great to work with, is we do have an AGM subframe here from Anthony. Anthony Gray. He's been great. We are running AGM carbon fiber fairings all around. I know you can't see it yet, but we have a 3/4 upper that we're going to put on, all carbon fiber. We have the carbon fiber tank shell. We have the carbon fiber side panels that are going to go on. Everything is carbon fiber on this bike. It's going to be absolutely stupid light. We'll weigh the bike once we get everything on it. It'll be interesting to see what this thing weighs, but we're shooting for like low 400s, like maybe around the 420 to, you know, well, it's got a radiator and everything. So I would say we're going to shoot for maybe like 440, 450 range. If we can hit the 440 to 450 range with everything on, that's pretty damn good all in all. There's still some minor things we need to do. I need to cut the forks. We're gonna drop the bike down another couple inches. So we do need to cut the forks. We need to swap out, let's see, he needs a brake line, and there's a couple of other little minor things that we need to do still. But once we get it all knocked out, this bike will be ready to roll, and we got a couple of cool little surprises that we're gonna do to the bike before we send it on its way. But all in all, super excited about this bike, super stoked. And I can't wait to get this thing on the dyno. So that's what we're gonna do next here. We're gonna get this thing loaded up and start making some noise. All right, guys, so we got the Land Speed ZX14R on the dyno. Got it back from Frank over at Splice Racing. We don't have everything done yet, but we do have it to where the bike fires up and it runs and there's no more misfiring. Boom. So that was the biggie. Oh man, it's on meth. So that was the biggie that we really wanted to do. I gotta walk away from that. So that's kind of the biggie that we really wanted to see, was we wanted to get it fired up right away. We wanted it to fire, rev, do all the things immediately. So before, we had an issue with the firing order because on these ZX14Rs, believe it or not, they don't run a cam position sensor. They run 2 map sensors. And really unique system on how they make it work, at least to me, because I've always been used to a cam sensor, a crank sensor, and a map sensor, and they were all separate. Now, I don't know, ZX14Rs ever since 2012 and up, they no longer do that, so it's an interesting system. Through the ECU, the standalone, we had to figure out the firing and how to make it run without a misfire with this M&W igniter. So we upgraded the igniter to be able to run methanol. I don't really know a whole lot of ZX14R, Turbo 14Rs that are running methanol. I have no idea what this pump is going to be. Technically on paper with not pump gas, but a gasoline-based fuel, this fuel pump is supposed to be able to get us to 1,000 horsepower. So now it's a gasoline-based fuel. This is methanol. It's a little bit different. The alcohol, it requires a lot more fuel, a lot more volume. Methanol is highly corrosive. So with all these things going on, A, we got limited pump life, and then B, we also have a possible flow issue. I don't know, kind of experimenting, kind of seeing it. This turbo is only limited to about 4 to 450 anyway to the wheel. We're gonna see what we can squeeze out of this thing, and we're gonna do some testing on it, and you know, again, just trying to see where we can end up. So it's getting later in the day. Hopefully we can still knock out some of these tests. There's still a bunch of stuff to do. We were still, you know, fixing up the room. We got the wiring all hid on the lights now, so the lights are all tricked. They look so good. So we've been working on the room, and we've had other people come in already, and you know, we've been busy. So all in all though, let me set the camera down. Let me get the screen turned on. Let me get everything running on this thing, and get the main TV up and everything, and let's do some runs. Let's see what it does. All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and do a cold start on the. This is on M5 with a MAXXECU Race. So we had a lot of help from Frank over at Splice Racing, but man, thing fires right up. It sounds incredible. We're getting ready to do some sample runs on it real quickly here. So here we go. All right, guys, so I just wanted to show you cold start really quickly. Give me a second, let me get everything kind of reset up here, and we're gonna do another pass. I made a ton of changes to the fuel mapping and the way the calibration was all set up. I'm getting ready to go test them, so let's see what kind of power we can make. And honestly, I'm just looking at air fuel, well, lambda. I'm making sure that all of the lambda looks good and nice and clean, so just kind of doing some partial throttle right now, and we're gonna see how it does. Guys, so we got the land speed bike going. It's doing pretty good. We made about 318, 320 on low boost, so we're around 10 pounds of boost, and we're at 320 wheel. We're trying a few things. We've got the lambda kind of, we're getting it worked out. We're very, very close. I mean, we're within a few percentage points now. I'm playing with some ignition timing and some of the other things, the way the boost controller is coming in. I'm trying to play with that, and we're getting some information, we're getting some data, but it sounds great. It's driving great. All in all, you couldn't be happier right now. What we might end up doing is calling it here shortly and just taking it to the track, you know, getting it off the dyno, dressing it up, taking it to the track and seeing what it does at the track, you know, and just kind of going from there. But I'm going to get a little bit more information on the boost controller and learn a little bit more about that, so that we can kind of ramp the boost in a little bit quicker if we can, and have it make a little bit more power, you know, not sooner, but just like, especially because we're in 4th gear right now, it should be making a little bit more boost than 10 PSI. It's ramping up rather slowly, so we're going to work on that and try to get it to ramp in a little bit quicker. So, but with that, let's do another pass. Let's just see what it does, see what it likes, and go from there. guys, so we got the ZX14R all wrapped up. Now, I want to let you know, we played with the boost levels a little bit, as you could see up here on the graph, and I'll grab the camera here. I'm not sure how well you guys can see all this, but it did pretty good. We got the boost to ramp in very quickly. Now, you know, the kicker is that, and I'll show you on the graph, that the wheel is actually spinning. The tire is spinning on the dyno. We dropped the air pressure down. We tried to do a couple things to get it to hook, but at certain boost levels, you know, it's difficult. At certain power levels, it is difficult to get the bikes to hook all the way until redline. You know, we're going to work on redoing the anchoring system and things like that, as you guys saw in the video already. But I just want to go over the final numbers based on where we're at currently. Now, this bike is making very good power considering what boost levels we're at, okay? So I'm gonna turn the camera around and let's go ahead and look over these numbers. If you see here at 11 PSI of boost, so 11 pounds of boost, we're at 354 wheel horsepower and 186 pound-foot of torque, okay? Pretty dang good. And this is what I wanted to show you guys. So it's coming in nice and linear all in all, but you see right here how we have this like kind of extreme slope up right there, right at the, not the limiter, but right around, it's about 10,000 RPM. Right there, we actually, that's wheel spin right there. That's the wheels spinning. The tire is spinning on the dyno, then it grabs really quickly. So we're ending it there because obviously as it's spinning, you don't want to bounce off that rev limiter, as a good friend of mine, Johnny Turbo, is telling me. You want to stay away from that limiter, okay? So now at 14 PSI of boost, we made 388 wheel with 202 pound-foot of torque, okay? Now look how it ramps in totally different, okay? From the get-go, it's coming in a lot harder, all right? Now, if you can see here, this is at 8,500 roughly. We made 259. We were making 259 at 11 pounds of boost. Now we're making 325. Now part of that is getting the tire to kind of hook. As you can see, it starts to spin again right here, and then it grabs again at that higher RPM. So again, that's telling me that we're making a lot more power than what we're actually displaying here. We just can't get the tire to actually grab on the dyno. So massive, massive, massive gains. I mean, that's a 66 wheel horsepower gain right there, just from a 3 PSI difference in boost. So this bike is going to scream. You know, our target, ultimately, our target is around 25, 26 pounds of boost as of right now is what we're targeting for. So ultimately, this thing should be making well into the 400s. You know, if you're giving the calculation at this rate, you know, we made an extra. Every PSI of boost, the rule of thumb is add about another 10 wheel, roughly. And if you see here, we added 3 pounds of boost, 3 PSI, and we picked up roughly 30 wheels. So, you know, it's safe to say if we're adding another, let's just say 6, that's 60 wheel. We're going to be in the mid like what is that, 420s or so, something like that, like 440s. So if we add another 5 PSI to that, you know, you're talking about another 90, you know, let's just say another 10 pounds of boost actually. You're at another 100 horsepower. That's 488. So we're kind of overshooting. We should be actually, maybe we might be even closer to the 500 wheel mark. That would be ideal considering what he's trying to go and do. But that's our goal, you know, that is our goal, and at this rate right here, it's going to make every bit of at least 450, if not going past that 450 mark. So the math is there. The bike is absolutely screaming. It's happy. It fires right up. It's doing all the things we want it to do. You know, there's a lot more to do on the bike. It's not finished, but ultimately, you know, considering that, you know, really this is the first kind of time I'm really messing with this MAXXECU, the race version. There were some learning curves in there. This is the first time I'm really messing with the open boost controller, open loop boost controller. So there's definitely a big learning curve here, but all in all, you know, very happy with this. The Lambda, everything looks very good. There's some little discrepancies that I'm trying to get figured out, but all in all, it's ready to run on the track. It's ready to go out there. It's ready to be taken out. So the next thing that we're gonna do, we're gonna dress this bike up. We're gonna get the carbon 3/4 upper. We're gonna put all the carbon body work on it. We gotta mount everything, so that we gotta drill a bunch of holes. We gotta bolt everything down. we're gonna go over our little checklist, if you will, to ensure that the bike is ready to roll, it's ready to be taken out, and it's ready to be raced. It needs another oil change. We got methanol in the oil, which is a very common thing with when you're using a methanol fuel. You're gonna have to change the oil very frequently in those things. So to ensure that, you know, the oil is fresh and it's not diluted. So what ends up happening is because you have to run so much volume and you have to run it so rich, basically, that the fuel tends to seep past the rings and get mixed into the oil, which breaks down the oil. And it, you know, now you got fuel and oil going throughout your engine where it should just be oil. So frequent oil changes are a necessity to keep the engine alive, to keep those bearings going and bearings healthy. Is again constantly changing out that oil. So we're gonna do the oil change. Again, we're gonna install some little minor things. We got to install the 16-volt charging system. Just again, some minor things that we need to do. The other thing is we're gonna get rid of that dash. So back when I first started doing all of this, we got the tablet for the dash, and now learning a few things that we're not gonna run that dash anymore. It's a little bit slower because it runs off of Bluetooth. We're gonna run an AEM CD5 dash. So we're gonna get rid of that tablet. We're gonna swap that all out. And that way, when you power the bike on, everything lights up. You don't have to manually turn on the dash separate from what you're trying to run, you know, the bike from. So, and you don't have to worry about Bluetooth connections. It'll fire right up. It'll get instant connection. So that's kind of what we're gonna go for on this bike. But all in all, thank you guys for viewing this video. Tell us what you think about the bike. Tell us what you think about the power levels and the amount of boost that we're running. You know, just let us know what your thoughts are. And if you could, like and share the video, please. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already to see more stuff like this in the future. And if you guys are interested in a build like this, comment down below or shoot us a call or an email at 813-908-FAST, 813-908-3278. Or hit us up on our website at www.provenpowercycles.com. Yeah, had a lot of fun doing this one. This one was a big challenge and a lot of fun. I'm glad we're wrapping up this project. It was a long-term project, but really happy on that. But thank you guys again. Thank you for viewing. And if you could, yeah, show us some love. See you on another episode.